right, well, here I am joined by the owner and operator of the Boxing Boulevard YouTube channel, regular fight night photographer, and as far as I know, one of the hosts, along with his mates Jade Mitchell and Ben Damon, of the original Aussie boxing podcast, Hurt Business Radio. It's Micky Capparelli. Micky, thanks for coming on the show, mate. I'm pumped to have a chat with you.
Likewise, Zach. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I know it's been a while since you've wrapped up Hurt Business Radio, which I think was the ushered in the market for all the guys like me that followed afterwards. So, mate, I'm a little bit nervous because you're one of the three pillars that started this whole thing off. But, mate, we'll get into the fights and we'll see how we go, eh?
That's very generous of you to say.
All right.
I'm loving this intro.
No worries, mate. Well, as we always start on the show, it's been about 2 weeks since the last episode we've done. So I just wanted to jump back before we get into the most recent stuff, which I know you had your boots on the ground at. So we can't wait to jump into that. But first of all, we had Justis Huni over in the UK on the Tyson Fury Netflix undercard against Fraser Clark. He got some pretty harsh judging by the English judges, which we shouldn't sort of come to be surprised by, mate. But what were you expecting going into the fight from Justis, and did his performance sort of meet the expectations that you had for him?
Well, yeah, I was up bright and early for that. But with Justis, we know his skillful, where his skills are at, and that he would probably bank a lot of rounds. The question was whether he'd get caught like he did against Fabio Wardley at some point, because we know Fraser can bang. But it pretty much went as expected. The judging was pretty bad. I think he didn't give away more than 2 or 3 rounds, I'd say, at most. So to have the judging so close was a bit, I think, unfair to Justis. But as you said, you come to expect that. But he looked good. He boxed well. A lot of the British public were kind of commenting that, was more or less Fraser letting himself down, whereas not giving Justis the credit he deserves. And they still do that when they look back at the Fabio Wardley fight. So, he's got that hand speed, he's got that movement, he's got those fundamentals, and hopefully, if he can keep banking some wins like this, the international market will really start, especially international media will really start giving him his props that he deserves.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I did drop out a couple of times there, so I may be repeating what you already touched on. So if that's the case, I apologise. But, I thought Justis looked great. There was that little shaky bit where he tried to weave under the shot, got caught on the back of the head and wobbled a little bit, but that seems to be a pretty, common thing in Justis's fights. As elusive as he is and as great as his feet are, he can get caught, and he was very unlucky in the way that he got caught when he was wobbled. So it didn't really ring alarm bells to me as much as it did to seemingly people on social media and the commentary as well. But I thought Justis, I thought 8-2 was pretty comfortably. The English judges, and I thought the commentary from David Hay was out of control. But I mean, we've been dealing this with from the Poms for years, so again, not really anything to be too surprised about. But I love Justis's commitment to the body. I thought was sensational. I love it when guys identify that they're not massive punches. So just drop it downstairs and go to the body, which I thought Justis did really well. And credit to the team. The first fight with a new trainer, they obviously wanted a softer touch in Kiki Latelli, which that got put back when Justis's previous trainer, tragically passed away. So they took on a pretty big, quote unquote, warm up fight or get back fight for the first time with a new team on a massive platform after a devastating loss too from Justis. So, mate, I really couldn't find a fault with it from really any angle. I reckon Justis is ready to roll and back on the train that he should have been on with that win over Fabio Wardley, but we won't rehash old ground. That was a horrible stoppage. Yeah. I'm really going after the Poms early today, but they deserve it. So onwards and upwards for Justis.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like you said, there was a moment there where he got rocked, and we saw that. I think it was in the Kevin Lorena fight as well. But that's heavyweight boxing. A lot of people say, oh, maybe he's chinny, this, that, and the other. But he's flesh and bone like anyone else, and these big guys can bang. And the fact that he did take a big punch from Fraser there and weathered it and went back to his game plan just shows that he not only is at that level, but he could probably be stepped up again now. And who knows? I'm excited to see where they take him next.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I agree on all points. And all right, now we'll jump into what I'm really keen to pick your brain about. We also had, just before we get to that, we also did have the Tasman card last week, headline with Jason Maloney and Andre Donovan. I'll probably touch on that in the outro. So if anyone wants to keep listening, the outro, we'll jump into that one. But Mickey, you were with your boots on the ground for Eddie Hearn's debut Matchroom Australia show, the first official one that was partnered with Foxtel and Kayo. Mate, before we get into the actual fights, I know you were in town for the whole festivities pre and post. What was the whole sort of Matchroom angle like, a powerhouse global promoter? Did it feel any different to you to any of the other Australian events that you've covered before, or was it sort of a very similar feel?
I mean, the fact that it's such a big promotional company was in town, like Matchroom, it did have like a different feeling to it. It started like this is the feeling of something big. They had a launch night in the city with Kayo and Matchroom, and everyone was there. Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith. Everyone was there to sort of to make it like an official launch. So they're treating it as it is a big deal. So it definitely did have the feelings of like this is the start of something big. They're very ambitious, saying they want to do like 7 shows by the end of the year. I don't know how many of those they'll actually get through, but I think it's always good for boxing when a big time promoter aligns with an Australian TV network as well. And yeah, there was just good buzz. I think everyone there involved was excited to see not only Australia bringing in these big cards. We had our own Sky Nicholson fighting in Australia, which was, as a fan of Australian boxing, you'd love to see that. But I think it's going forward. Even a good thing being from Melbourne, because we don't always get these big shows in Melbourne as often as we used to. So it was nice for me to be able to just drive 15 minutes to all the media events and to the fight itself. So yeah, I think there was a bit of a buzz, and I think they're only going to keep building on that with subsequent cards.
Yeah, and was there like a, I guess, and I wouldn't know because I haven't experienced this personally, but you pick up what people are putting down on the internet, so to speak, and things like that, and sort of the assumption from the outside looking in is that the Australian promoters can be a bit ragtag, a little bit everything's held together with duct tape sort of type of setup, whereas Matchroom with the big reputation and the runs on the board comes in and they're going to show how an operation really hits the ground running and that type of thing. In terms of the behind the scenes and the media access and stuff, did you find it more of a professionalism, if that's the right word, in the way Matchroom did it, or were you sort of pleasantly surprised to be like, oh wow, this is kind of like how our promoters operate anyway, which is obviously a compliment to them. Was there a difference, or did it feel very much the same?
Look, Matchroom, because I've covered their shows before, they're always like consummate professionals. They're probably one of the best to do it. It is interesting seeing them at the Melbourne Pavilion as someone who's seen so many club shows there. And I think they're still finding their feet with it because it is a different scene for them. And I think with the card was put together relatively quickly, I think, and considering all things considered, I think they did do a good job. With the media access, there were a few like hiccups here and there, but overall, they do a great job, and everything was well communicated with us, organised. So just like any card, there's going to be moments where there's a bit of confusion and everything, and but I think all things considered, they did well, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, excellent. Well, let's get to the fights. And I loved that they just made it a 5-fight card, at least for the televised portion. It didn't go too late. They seem to have listened to, especially on a weeknight, a work night as well for most fans. It's some of those cards, like the No Limit shows that just finish so late, are just brutal when you got to go in the next day for 5 a.m. for work or whatever. Imagine if you're a baker and you're up at 2:30 or something. It'd be brutal. Yeah. But mate, before we get to those, there were yeah, exactly. There were 3 fights on the untelevised portion, which I'm assuming you were around for. Did you happen to catch those fights that didn't make the broadcast?
I didn't, only because usually because I drove there, and I reckon I spent about like 40 minutes looking for parking. So I didn't get there till as the last fight before the card, the televised portion started. So yeah, and then like in the arena, like where I was kind of finding my place and everything there, it was hard to kind of see what was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, once the televised card started, yeah, I was able to have a better view at least.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the fight that kicked off that card was Jesse Bolt, who was 3-0 with
Yeah,
3 stoppages going in. Yes, tip rat. Going in against Favisi Asako. Mate, could Matchroom have picked a better fight to start the night with? Like, this was an absolute banger. I mean, defense went out the window, but entertainment was through the roof.
absolutely. And I think internationally, I think the reputation that Australians have is that we do like a bar fight.
Yeah.
And there were so many cards that were entertaining that, and it was watching that was just chaotic, to be honest. So yeah, I think they definitely got a fan friendly fight there, and and by the sounds of it, Eddie Hearn afterwards said that in the post fight scrum, he actually goes that that Bolt approached him as like, you're gonna sign me one day, and then he goes, mate, after that I did. So I think you'll be seeing more of him on Matchroom cards.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, well, I'd never seen Jesse Bolt before, either of his 3 previous professional fights. But I went back and obviously, as we always do, we jump on BoxRec and we have a look. And I had about 30 of his amateur fights on there, I believe, as a record. I was going through those and I noticed an abnormally high RSC, ref stop contest percentage for the amateurs, and I was like, holy hell, man, this 3 wins, 3 knockouts in the pros might not be a coincidence. Like, it's pretty rare to have that many stoppages as an amateur, and is clearly translating to the pros early, and he absolutely iced Asako. Again, we speak about like defensive responsibility with someone else we'll talk about later, like Callum Peters. I'm sure that can be taught long term, but in terms of fearlessness and not being afraid of the bright lights, I mean, Jesse Bolt passed all those tests with flying colours.
Yeah, exactly. And doing that with only like less than a handful of fights you can count on one hand is impressive. And these days a lot of fighters turn pro and don't have much of an amateur experience. So even 30 fights by today's standards is more than a lot of other fighters do when they turn pro. Back in the day, it's like most fighters have at least 100 amateur fights under their belts, and that would kind of set them up. But yeah, and being thrown in the deep end like that, I mean, it looks promising for sure.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on. And who knows, we might see Jesse Bolt another 6 times on the remaining Matchroom shows for the year in the next, what have we got, 7 months. So he might be a busy guy, we'll see. But then we moved on to what many people were tipping to be the fight of the night. I certainly was, and it did not disappoint, with Benjamin Hussein picking up a split decision win over Andrew Hunt in, again, what was an absolute brawl. Both guys face adversity. Again, maybe defense wasn't the highest criteria, but man, in terms of these guys like wanting to impress Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn in the front row and the Australian public, again, massive hats off. What was the atmosphere like in the room for this one, Mickey? I imagine it was pretty high.
Yeah, it was amazing because like the pavilion's not the biggest venue in the world, so it was all packed out. So you kind of felt everything, and people were loving it. And like you said, it was definitely fight of the night. A lot of people felt like, and both guys did come out trying to prove a lot. Both went toe to toe, and they kind of went so hard in the first half of the fight that they kind of like tired out for the second half of the fight. And then I think it was like the third round where Andrew Hunt landed that beautiful like looping kind of hook that dropped him, and then landed a couple more punches after that. I thought, there's still like a couple minutes to go in the round, so I thought this could end now. And yeah, to Hussein's credit, he survived that, and then came out strong in the fourth. And then by round 6, they were both tired, but they wouldn't stop punching either. And it was just like a really great back and forth fight. And it was so good to see that the scorecards reflected that how close it was. And the scorecards were great. I think it could have gone either way, especially with the knockdown. But a lot of people feel the right guy won.
Yeah, 100%. And all credit to Benjamin Hussein, who not only got put down hard, but was able to get back up and adjust. You know, after that, he really got inside the power and inside the explosiveness of Andrew Hunt and smothered him and took it away, and, you know, took away that element of surprise by changing the distance. And to be able to do that when you're rocked and dropped, and it also shows great instruction from the corner as well, I thought was really impressive. So, yeah, congrats to Benjamin Hussein. But watching the fight, man, I couldn't help but think Andrew Hunt did look really small. I don't know if welterweights, you know, getting back down to 147s out of the picture for him, but yeah, he did look very undersized. But Hussein's a big guy who's fought a bigger weights too before, so definitely one to keep an eye on there. But from there, mate, we went into another banger. It was a bit of a banger, this card. Jake Wiley and Miles Zalewski. This in not even 2 full completed rounds. This fight had just about everything.
Mate, yeah, like, exactly. Like, yeah, it was just, again, another one where, like, defense kind of went out the window. Wiley came out like the aggressor, applying, like, heaps of pressure, you know, kind of had him on the back foot. And then, wild second round, he got hurt. Wiley got hurt badly, and looked like, oh, okay, this could be over now. And then just out of the blue, just a punch from the guards, as Ben Damon would say, kind of just ended it out of nowhere. So, fans in the UK who for watching this super early, definitely, got woken up by that.
Yeah, 100%. Bit of a alarm bells for Jake Wiley there, but he got through it, and apparently the corner threw in the towel for Miles Zalewski, because it did look like an early stoppage, but apparently, I had to watch it back. The towel did go in, so Miles was out for 3 years, short notice. Ibby Bella got injured. Maybe he wasn't 100% prepared as he looked. He physically looked great, but who knows what was going on behind, so his corner protected him. And I thought he's still on short notice and against all adversity put up a great account of himself too, if fighting is something he wants to continue to do. But I don't even know what to say about this fight, Mickey. Hopefully you do, because I don't. But Tera Moana sort of had a fight.
Yeah.
Did he? I'm not sure. What did you make?
More an execution than a fight, but but that's how, like, most of his fights have gone so far. So obviously that would be looking at getting him to take a step up in his next fight for the Australian title. But yeah, I mean, he's just like tearing through it. And one thing I want to ask him is that, like, he's got so many first-round knockouts. If he keeps going like this, I think Shannon Briggs holds the record for the most first-round knockouts for a heavyweight champion. He could be well on his way to beat that.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think of that. Okay. Dang.
Yeah, but again, like, if he starts stepping up his opponents, you can't be expected to knock everyone in the first round. You do want to get some rounds up at some point. The heavyweight division, there's a lot of people out there, like there's Justice Hooney, who's, still a few steps ahead of him. There's Moses Talma, who's a few steps ahead of him. It's not going to be, there's the Ajit Kabiel, your Wardleys, you can't expect, Usyk said he's only got 3 fights left. So you're going to see those belts open up and opportunities come for these guys. And the heavyweight division's looking, like it could be pretty stacked soon. So you don't want to get pushed along too quickly, but at the same time, you need to get your rounds up. So, Bowie Tupou, it was actually disturbing. Like, I don't know, because his eyes were like kind of rolling back there for a bit, and like he looked like he was almost kind of convulsing. So yeah, I hope he's okay after that. But yeah, we need to see who we get Termina in with next.
Yeah, hopefully Stefanovic or something like that can happen. I mean, guys price themselves out all the time when you got this absolute. What is he? Is he 6'9"?
Yeah, something like that. But
I don't know what his actual height is, but it's
7. Like heavyweights of these days are like just freakishly big. Like 6'5" is considered, I guess, like 6'4", 6'5" is becoming like the average now. And the lower of TR for like the height of these guys. So yeah, they're freakishly big guys these days. So they might have to raise the heavyweight limit at some point, because it's getting too much.
Absolutely. But fingers crossed for Tera Moana in with what was that? Sorry, Mickey? Oh, you there?
No, nothing. Yeah, sorry. I think we lost me for a second.
I think it just dropped. Yeah, I think it just dropped out for a sec. But hopefully we can get Tera Moana in with a bit more of a stern test next time out, fingers crossed. But we move on to the main event, mate. As you mentioned, Sky Nicholson was back in Australia and won a Basically, well, I thought she won every round over Mariah Turner, setting herself up for a mandatory shot at the undisputed champion, Ali Scottney, if she is to stay in the division and obviously have the obligation to take on that mandatory. There may be other mandatories as well. But, yeah, pretty cut and polished performance from Sky. Looked pretty standard to most of other performances that I've seen from her. I wasn't really shocked with anything. I didn't think there were any new wrinkles. Maybe there were things that she was working on in training camp that she wants to bring to the table. For this fight, I don't think she needed to, and I think that's why I didn't see them. But was there anything different you saw in Sky, mate? Were you still an impressive performance, but pretty stock standard, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you summed it up perfectly. Yeah, she just did everything by the book like she always does. Very classy, good footwork, movement, speed. Loves to kind of like catch her opponent coming in and then kind of swivel away to kind of get them off balance. And you can't really argue with the scorecards. To me, at least, yeah, it looked like she won all, if not most of them. Hopefully she can get that shot at Scottney. I don't know, there's talks of Scottney finding Amanda Serrano, moving up, this, that, and the other. But you'd think with the power that Eddie Hearn has with this, especially, with this move to Australia as well, hopefully we can make that fight happen. And whether it happens in Australia or not, that would be great. But yeah, would love to see that. Because like she mentioned in the post-fight interview that she doesn't want to be collecting, just broken up belts. She wants to dethrone champions, which is respectable. It's not just about collecting the belts. She wants those scalps.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a commendable approach to it, 100%, and hopefully that will be the case for Sky from a biased Australian perspective. But, mate, if you had to grade the card, say if you were a Foxtel executive sitting back the next day reviewing the whole telecast, the fights as it played out, the whole event as a whole, the public opinion of it, all that, and you had your suit and tie on with the briefcase in the boardroom, what grade would you give the event?
Well, there's me, but I don't think like an executive. For me personally, one thing I liked was that there wasn't much gap in between fights. They got the fights out quickly, and especially on a Wednesday night, the audience appreciates that. When it comes to executives, I think they just want to see action, and there's no denying that, maybe apart from the main card, because it was very one-sided from the main fight, but all the fights leading up to that, like, were all fan-friendly affairs that, may not have been the best technical affairs, but to the casual observer, they would be loving what they're seeing, and I'm thinking that, they would have been happy with what they saw as well.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I agree completely. I reckon it'd be a solid B+/A possibly. I can't see any glaring holes. And look, we all, I think boxing fans get a bit of a bad rap, but it's also true. Like, we love to pick holes in everything. We complain about everything. I know I do when I feel like it's warranted. And I feel like Matchroom have listened to the constructive criticism, or that's what I genuinely believe it is. The promoters would say just the nagging and the bloody negativity, but I think it's constructive criticism of, they go to the desk on no limit shows between fights for 20 minutes. There's too many fights on the card for a work night. Just those two things, Matchroom listened, they changed it, and it made the flow of the fight night better. It made it easier to consume, and it made it more enjoyable. So, I give it bugger the B+. I would give it a straight up A. Again, as you said, the fights could have been a little bit more technical. I would have liked to have seen more defense and things like that. But if you're getting guys that are 3-0 and 3-5 and early in their pro careers, that's going to develop down the track. But I thought it was a really solid, not debut show for Matchroom, but the debut outing for Matchroom on Foxtel, which presumably is going to get much more eyeballs. So, I was really impressed and looking forward to seeing if they can put out another 6 shows in 7 months. I doubt
they'll be able to do that many, but if you can get 2 or 3, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And one thing that both Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith said is that they want to build fighters in Australia, and rather than throwing them onto pay-per-view shows and putting it behind a paywall, which I think is important, because people will watch boxing if it's free to air. Well, not free to air, but at least not behind a pay-per-view paywall. Yes. And I think that's the best way to build fighters from the grassroots up to world level. And, Sam Bruno, to his credit for this show, he did say he wants to put on 50-50 fights. And, and we got that. And the results of the fights and the fights themselves showed that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. I have no complaints at all. I thought it was a really good top to bottom show, and yeah, hopefully more of it. The more they can pull that sort of stuff for the year, the more entertainment and the more fun we're having as boxing fans. So long may it continue. But let's just jump into a few quick little news items here, Mickey, if that's okay, because just very recently, possibly earlier this week or late last week, we had the shocking news that, and it truly was shocking, that Tszyu, for the second time in 3 fights, has sacked his entire team. And now he's linked up with legendary Australian, the best Australian fighter that there's ever been, Jeff Fenech, as his coach and also manager. I thought it was a hoax when I first saw it, Mickey. What did you think when the news broke?
Well, I saw it from Brendan Bradford on Twitter.
Me too,
So he's pretty reliable. So I definitely didn't think it was a hoax, but I was shocked, just like the rest of Australia. And I, like anyone else, I had lots and lots of questions. I had my ear to YouTube, Twitter, everywhere to see if there was any news that could come out from that. And there seems to be a lot of like disarray in the team camp, especially the feud with his brother and stuff. And it was strange and surprising to me as well because he had such high praise for Pedro Diaz. He called him like a genius, and he was teaching him all these things. And to turn around and sack him after just 2 fights definitely was surprising. So, there have been times where you've seen people changing teams so much, and it's usually not a great sign to where their head's at and where their career's going. I don't know if that's the case with Tim. The thing about Jeff Fenech is he might not be as decorated as a trainer as Pedro Diaz, but one thing's for sure is that he does genuinely care about his fighters. And that's why it's good that he's also his manager, because he takes on the role of almost a father figure as well. And maybe that's what Tim needs. I spoke to Ben Damon about it on the channel, and this was echoed in his interview he did with Jeff and Tim, is that Tim was feeling very homesick and missing his family, being away from home so much, and that started to take a toll from him. And people always say, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. So if you're not happy and you're in a state of, I guess, like anxiety, and that you're not going to perform at your best. And I think that's true of most work, let alone something as cutthroat and unforgiving as boxing. So, what happens next? I don't know. He did it at a very interesting time when he's taking on one of his toughest challenges in Errol Spence. And I guess we really won't know how this decision works until we actually see the fight.
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzling one, isn't it? And I was trying to think, and I didn't do a very good brainstorm, but I was thinking, like, who recently in the world level of boxing has like bounced around trainers a lot and had success at the end of it in a relatively short span. All I could really think of was Ryan Garcia. He went from, but that was probably over a few more years and a few different trainers. Derek James,
and then he lost to Rowley, so.
Oh yeah. There you go, too. Bounce back from it eventually. But, I don't know. Historically, does changing teams that frequently lead to success? I'm no historian, but I would err to the side of no, that it doesn't. The most amount of time. But it seems to me, and this is like a really, really unfair observation, and I get that because Tim's a grown man and, like, who am I to speak about whatever he wants to do? But, I mean, Tim seems to be the guy, at least from his public image to the fans, which I am one of, he seems to be very like, get an idea in his head, go for it, without kind of maybe thinking it through as much as he maybe should have or could have. Like at the end of sort of the Australian run before Fundora, he said it multiple times in the post-fight interviews in Newcastle, this is the last one. We're going to Vegas. Before the Fundora fight, there was talk from Glenn Jennings that he was going to buy a house over there and live in. All he wanted to do was Vegas. He'd outgrown Australia. Then he loses and he comes back and goes, it's so good to be home. My team's no good. I need to go back to America. Oh, yes, this is the best. I've got a Cuban trainer. I'm in Miami. I've got a team now. When I go running, I've got people to compete with. It's not just me. Oh, now I'm homesick. I'm coming home. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I don't know. I'm judging him. I've never met him, and it's very definitely unfair what I'm doing, but the observations are clear. Maybe he needs, like you pointed out, someone that is going to put their arm around him, be a bit more of a father figure, quote unquote, and help him make these decisions. Maybe that he didn't feel that he had that with his old team. So for his sake, I hope that it works. But, at this track record, I wouldn't be surprised either if win, lose or draw against Spence, he's bloody training with someone else in Venezuela for the next camp. Who knows? But certainly a lot for us to talk about and people to write about and make content about. So I guess we shouldn't be complaining.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, look, because his last team was basically family to him, they had the history with his dad and everything. I think it wasn't an easy decision to make that. I think that's what kind of delayed it so much. And that's why it took, such a punishing loss to Fundora. Because that was hard to watch in the end. He did well and fought back and landed some big shots. But it was a bit demoralizing with this giant in front of you. He just kept pummeling you. And that's what it took for him to finally say it. So I think it was very brave of him to finally make that decision. As Saka's team, I didn't think he'd be able to do it. I thought he'd be ride or die with his team for better or worse. But I guess I think that was a good decision to do that. This last one was a little confusing to me. But like you said, he has a lot of history with Jeff. And Jeff, although, he hasn't had the history of training world champions like Pedro Diaz, but he does have that chemistry with Tim, and like I said, he does really care about his fighters. And style-wise, they kind of match a bit too, because Jeff was like a relentless come-forward fighter, and Tim does that too. So if he can do that while giving him some footwork and head movement, more fundamentals as well, it could work. But I guess we'll know in a few short months when he takes on Errol.
Yeah, 100%. One to keep an eye on for sure. And the next one I wanted to get your thoughts on too, Micky, is Liam Parrow's world title shot. It was already meant to have been done and dusted with Lewis Crocker. Lewis Crocker broke his hand about 3 weeks before the scheduled date. It seems like it's being rescheduled for, I heard whispers of like June or July or something, being with on the ground with the Matchroom team. Did you get any sort of inkling or any insight as to possibly when the date of that rescheduled mandatory fight for the world title that Liam Parrow could find himself in soon could be?
No, not really. I mean, it was mentioned kind of in passing a little bit. So, no inside information. Now, I think they're kind of keeping their cards close to their chest for when they do make an announcement. But the fact that that's going to be in Australia and, I can't wait for that. So yeah, hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But it's definitely a great time to be an Aussie boxing fan at the moment. Getting these shows over here. So
yeah, well,
I wish I had more inside info to share you, but your guess is as good as mine.
That's all right, mate. You did the segue for me because we might even have another big fight from completely out of left field. Zerafa and Chris Eubank Jr. The rumor has been out, mainly circulated by Zerafa himself on social media for quite a while now. I kind of didn't see it coming, didn't understand how it could happen, thought it would just kind of go away. Zerafa's like really dug his heels in and seems to be like really pushing that this fight is a really good, strong likelihood of happening. Mate, have you heard anything? Do you know anything? Do you want it to happen? Like, would you like to see it happen? Are there any other options for Zerafa? Like, where are we at with this fight?
Considering how Zerafa was probably the most hated person in boxing after the Nikita fight, this is the best possible outcome for him if he is able to pull it off. Whether it happens, I don't know. Zerafa has in the past jumped the gun a bit in announcing fights that were kind of in the pipeline that didn't happen. But one thing I did see, I saw an interview with Nonito Donaire, who's been kind of working in the gym with him, and he also mentioned that fight's happening. So maybe there's something he knows that we don't. I think it's a fight that would pique Australia's interest, and I think it's the best possible option for Zerafa when, after what happened before, that who knows where, like, No Limit talking about they'll never work with him again, this, that, and the other. I hope that's not true. I would like to see Zerafa back. I might be in the minority here, but I would still like to see the Nikita fight at some stage, because just looking at those first 2 rounds, it did look like stylistically it was shaping up to be an exciting fight. But yeah, man, if you can pull off, the Chris Eubank Jr. fight, I think it's perfect timing for him too. Chris Eubank Jr., he didn't look too great in his last fight against Conor Benn. So, it could be winnable for Zerafa as well. I think Zerafa, when he's switched on, like the version we saw against Isaac Hardman and the first Horn fight, he is dangerous. For him, it's more of a mental thing, because then when you saw him in the rematch with Horn, his body language and the way he was talking, even in the lead up to his last fight with Nikita, you're wondering how much if his heart's still 100% in it, because he was talking about he's got businesses outside of it, and it's like boxing is so unforgiving that even if like you've got one toe out of boxing, that it can end badly. But a fully focused Michael Zerafa, I think, can put on a really good performance. If this happens, which I'm not sure, I'm 50-50 about it actually happening, like anyone else. But if it does happen here in Australia, it definitely puts him on the map here again in Australia, and could hopefully open up channels for him to other fights as well.
Yeah, it'd be gigantic. Be the biggest win of his career for sure, wouldn't it? But it's kind of weird that, like, yeah, you mentioned about Chris Eubanks' last performance not being the greatest, and he sort of, I don't know if he flat out used it as an excuse, but certainly alluded to the fact that, like, making 160 twice in relative short turnarounds really took a toll on his body, and he was going back to super middleweight. This fight seemingly would be at middleweight where Zerafa is ranked. I don't see why there would be a reason for Eubank to fight him at super middle where he isn't ranked over here as well, if rumours are to be believed. So assuming there would be back at 160, what version of Chris Eubank are we going to get? Can he even make that weight again? I have no idea. So there's just so, like most of Zerafa's career, and I'm a Zerafa fan. I've got a soft spot for him. I don't understand the hate that he gets. I mean, he did kind of lie after that Nikita fight. That's true, but I'm not going to hold it against him with the, rush of adrenaline and in the moment and all that sort of thing. Like, whatever. Everyone who gets in the ring has my respect. But, the last couple of years of his career have just been surrounded by so many insane question marks that this fight just seems to put another 6 or 7 on the pile. So we'll see what happens. But we have got one hell of a weekend coming up, Mickey.
Yeah, we do.
I think everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say that, but I'm going to go through it anyway. In the space of 24 hours, we've got 2 absolute bangers, but we'll start in Japan. We've got Naoya Inoue defending the undisputed super bantamweight title against Junto Nakatani, 2 legitimate pound-for-pounders in their primes fighting each other. Like, the undercard's great too. We'll get to that, but straight off the bat, this is a dream fight, mate. Like, how pumped are you for this All-Japan showdown?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like, it's 2 of the biggest fights of the year, both within a 24-hour period, and it's so good. I love Japan, so I would love to fly out there just to be there, because it's an all Japan showdown. Best fighting the best, multiple weight world champions, undisputed title. I mean, stylistically, it's an interesting fight as well. I can't wait for it. Oh, did you lose me?
I've got you now. It was dropping in and out a little bit, Mickey, but I got you now, mate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, like, just to cover what I was saying before. It's exciting. You get the two best in Japan, all Japan showdown, multiple weight world champions. I love Japan. If I didn't have life commitments, I would definitely fly out there for it, because when it comes to the lower weight divisions, Japan is just produces such amazing talent. And this fight here, stylistically as well, you got the explosiveness of the monster and the skill set of Nakatani. The styles mesh pretty well. I think we're in for an exciting fight, and a lot of people might be sleeping on Nakatani, but it really does feel like a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, certainly, mate. I can't wait. And unfortunately, Junto's coming off that, I don't even want to say a lackluster performance, but his opponent, Sebastian Hernandez, just was taken absolutely none of his crap and just walked him down and put it on him. I mean, I don't even think that was a flat Junto. I just don't think he'd ever fought anyone as big as him before, and someone who had a, indomitable will and wouldn't take no for an answer. So, it would have been great for the hype of this fight if Nakatani was on another highlight reel knockout coming into it. But also, I'm glad that he got those hard rounds under his belt. I mean, I don't think Naoya Inoue can bully Nakatani the way that Sebastian Hernandez was able to, but if there's anyone on the planet that is explosive enough to catch this guy down the middle with that sort of classic right hand, left hook, southpaw killer style, it's Naoya Inoue. Like, remember what he did back in the day to Juan Carlos Payano. Like, he can get straight down the middle on anyone on the planet. He's 33 years old now. He has slowed down a little bit, but I think it's more of settling into the weight. But I see it 60-40 Inoue. As long as he's alive, I can't ever pick him to lose just because I'm too much of a super fan. But talk about I really think the first 3 rounds of this fight are going to be awkward for both guys. It's going to take a while for Inoue to really get used to the length and the height and where the target is of Nakatani, how he presents himself to Naoya. But I think like every other fight Inoue's had, when guys come to fight him, he finds the holes. He's got to be super careful. He's been knocked down a few times in the last couple of fights, but he's always got back up and stopped them. So, and is this the right time for Junto for Inoue with Junto Nakatani at 122 pounds when he's coming off the first, lackluster is a harsh word to categorize it as, but the first lackluster performance of his career. This could be great timing, but either way, I see it. Both guys are dangerous. Both guys have the potential to stop the other one. I'm just sticking with Inoue because it's been so much fun following along with his career for a decade now. But I'm a massive Nakatani fan too, even though I still do hold it against him for what he did to Andrew Maloney because I'm stubborn and petty like that. But it should be a great fight, so I absolutely can't wait for the first bell to ring.
Yeah, I think we're all in that boat with Maloney, but I think a lot of people make a lot of the last performance, and I think historically, coming off a tough fight, going to an even bigger fight, I think that actually works in your favor. And I think if you're just kind of walking through opponents and then fighting, it sometimes doesn't prepare you. Like people say, like, oh, you got dropped in your last fight, and then they expect you to when you step up that you're going to get knocked out. And I think Tyson Fury was a good example, He got knocked down a couple of times on the way up, and then when he fought Klitschko, people were like, oh, yeah, Klitschko's going to walk through him. But I think the fact that you've shown that you can take punishment and keep coming forward and eke out and come out victorious does say a lot to your resolve and does help you prepare for these super tough fights. Because if I was going to fight Inoue, I'd want to be in a tough fight before that to kind of prepare me because, he's definitely really difficult to prepare for.
Yeah, that's a great point, mate. That's a great point. And also with that, adding on to that too, it also helps sort of relieve the pressure a little bit, they're not expecting another, highlight reel knockout. So, in the biggest fight of your life, the pressure's off. That could help a little bit too more. That's a great point, mate. That works on multiple levels. So, just adds even more fuel to the fire. I can't wait for this fight. I'm so excited. I don't know how I'm going to sleep, but we're almost there. We're almost there. But, mate, on the undercard too, we have got a great fight. One of my other favorite fighters, Kazuto Ioka, moving up another weight class to bantamweight. He did last time, but fighting for a world title after his 2 losses to Puma Martinez against Naoya Inoue's brother, the reigning WBC World Bantamweight champion, Takuma Inoue. Mate, I've been such an Ioka fan the last couple of years. I did think the first Puma Martinez fight, I thought Ioka did enough to win that. The rematch, I thought he was pretty clearly outpointed. I thought it was kind of like an 8-4 fight to Puma. There were signs of Ioka not being able to pull the trigger. I believe he's like 37 or 38 now, upper weight class. He looks good. He doesn't look undersized in the pictures. I don't know if he's got platform shoes on, George Cambosa style. Some guys like to do that sort of stuff, but so far so good. We'll see at the weigh-ins, which I guess will be coming out a little bit later on today. But mate, this is one hell of a co-main in terms of like intrigue, interest, and potential for fireworks. I'm absolutely pumped. Are you excited for the co-main, mate? Are you there, Mickey? I think we just dropped out again, mate.
Yeah, sorry, you dropped out there for a second.
Yep, got you back now, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pumped for that co-main, mate?
I am. But you know what? I think this could be one where you see Ioka because 37, you're still well enough to put on your best performances. I mean, look at Usyk fighting, well into his 30s. But I think in these weight divisions, it kind of takes its toll quicker, I think. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he just ages overnight. So that's another like factor that I've kind of been thinking going into this. But yeah, we'll just see on the night. It'll be night. Yeah, it'll be night here. Yeah, we're not that much of a time difference with Japan, which is good.
Yeah, in line with Perth.
Yeah.
So it works out pretty good, the Japanese fights for us. Also of note, Jin Sasaki is on the undercard against the 5-0 Sora Tanaka, and also Toshiki Shimamachi is back against Raya Abe. And there's some other fights on the undercard too, but I'll be honest, I am not familiar with those guys. But it's a Japanese supercard. They're all going to be bangers. I'm going to be watching from the first fight for sure.
Yeah,
It's going to be so good. And we don't have to wait too long till the next banger of a fight. Maybe not with the supporting undercard that we're going to have in Japan, but still live from the USA, which will be Sunday, the 3rd of May, Australian time. We've got the WBO and WBA World Cruiserweight Champion Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez defending his 2 titles against David Benevidez, who is coming up from light heavyweight. Obviously, we are super biased Jai Opetaia fans. We haven't even spoken about Jai Opetaia yet, Mickey, but it's pretty safe to assume we all are in this country. We all have our bias right out in front of us, so we'll put that out there. But objective of that, this still is a great fight I'm super looking forward to, mate. Are you as confident as the American media seems to be that David Benevidez can move up 25 pounds and walk through Zurdo?
I certainly don't think he can walk through Zurdo, and I don't think that's going to be his game plan as well. Like he said, it's for him, it's his speed, and that's going to work in his favor a lot at cruiserweight as well. So you've seen the way he puts together combinations and just how lightning fast those punches are. And I think if he could carry that speed to cruiserweight, it's going to be trouble for anyone. I like you. I'm obviously biased towards Jai. I would love to see the winner fight Jai. If it is Benevidez, he hasn't seemed, from what I've seen in his interviews, too keen to stay at cruiserweight. He does want to drop down and fight Bivol, which is another great fight too. But as a biased Australian fan, I would rather see him give Jai the career-defining fight that he deserves, that he's long overdue for.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about the fight itself, but the whole 25 pound, light heavyweight to cruiser is like the biggest jump you can do in the sport. 25 pounds is like 12.5 kilos. This is a massive jump. Like, we saw Roy Jones try and go up and come back down and lose all that muscle. Benevidez, with respect, probably isn't like packing on muscle per se like Roy Jones did against John Ruiz or back in the day, but it's still a lot of weight to put on and then take back off again. It's not like going from 147 to 154 and then back down, in like an Andrew Hunt scenario that I presented earlier. This is 175 to 200, 12.5 kilos. This is significant size and mass. I don't know if he can go up and down just physically and physiologically as easy as he is claiming that he will be able to, should he win. But I mean, look, he knows his body better than I do, of course. I don't doubt him, but again, if we go by history, when guys go up, they never really do look the same when they come back down over that significant of a weight gap. So we'll see there. But the fight itself, I love it. This is, if I'm David Benevidez, this is exactly the cruiserweight you want to go after. Even though Zurdo is huge, he started at super middleweight as well. So it's kind of like guys that, like Jai Opetaia, for example, probably isn't as big as Zurdo in terms of frame, but there's no way he could make 76.2 kilos. He'd have to chop off his leg. It's just not physically possible. So in terms of if you're going to make that huge weight jump like Benevidez is, you definitely want to go after the guy like him or Badu Jack were absolutely perfect for it. They started at super middleweight. So I love it in that respect. So I don't see the size playing a factor in this fight, but more to what you alluded to, it's that speed of David Benevidez, which I was a bit facetious in the way I set up the question, because I have seen some, American media suggesting Benevidez is just going to go in there and wipe the floor with this guy. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, Zurdo's pretty good. I like Jai against Zurdo more than I like Jai against Benevidez, but I like Jai against both of them. But, it's that sort of really solid, slow-ish in comparison, methodical style of Ramirez against that blinding speed, that flashiness, and that consistent pressure of Benevidez. This actual style clash itself presents for fireworks and for a great action fight for sure. But how is the speed going to look 25 pounds up? I think that's a fair enough question to ask. Do you feel like that blinding speed will carry with all that extra poundage on the frame?
It's hard to say, because different people have different genetics. You saw Manny Pacquiao move up 8 weight divisions and carry the power and speed. And I personally think he would, but it comes down to your own body chemistry and makeup and all that. So we'll find out on Sunday. But I think he can. I mean, it's not like he's gradually moved up, and yes, it is a big jump. But as you mentioned, Gilberto started at super middleweight, so not fighting a career cruiserweight, which is probably why he's not that keen to fight Jai, because Jai is that guy who is a career cruiserweight. But then you look at people move up to from cruiserweight to heavy, and it's not as big as a jump, but some of the people you're fighting are like way heavier. So, it's not like historically you can't do it. And one thing Usyk has shown is that it doesn't matter if you're a small guy. If you've got like the IQ and in Benevidez's case, like the speed as well, I think it's definitely winnable, and I think he can look good.
Yeah, no, I do too, mate. I like Benevidez here, and again, selfishly, I want the winner to fight Jai, and it's just so much of a bigger fight if it's Benevidez than if it's Zurdo. But I mean, if Zurdo gets the win over Benevidez, that's still a massive fight too. So hopefully Jai can somehow snake his way in there. But with this whole Zuffa thing, which I've spoken about on previous pods, and the whole IBF stripping situation, we don't want to get bogged down in the negativity again. We've all been on that roller coaster, so we all know what we're talking about. But just promotionally, like, can it even legally happen, realistically happen? What the hell do I know? But who knows? But I can't wait for the fight. I like Benevidez but I think it's going to be a 12-round slugfest in spots. But Benevidez's class will just shine through in the end. But an interesting co-main event. Jaime Munguia is back, Mickey, and he's fighting Jose Armando Resendez, who, after his win over Caleb Plant, has sat on the sidelines for almost exactly 12 months, which doesn't exactly capitalize on career momentum or anything like that, but he's back. I think it's a good fight. I think it's going to be an action fight. I don't know if it probably is, co-main event level, if that's even a thing, but, we'll find out. As I mentioned, this card is a lot. There's not as much meat on the bone as there is in the Japan card the night before, but, I mean, we're still getting pretty spoiled in that 24 hours. But, yeah, Resendez Munguia is a co-main, Mickey. You sort of like the card positioning there?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not the strongest card in the world, but Jaime being of Mexican background and it being Cinco de Mayo makes sense that they put him on there. He was always, in a lot of people's eyes, one of the weaker champions. And, we saw Dennis kind of expose him a little bit as well in his hometown. But, I think as a fight, it does look like a 50-50 fight. And I think, for me, it doesn't matter who fights. If the fights are 50-50, I don't care if it's two blokes in the pub fighting. If they're 50-50, I'll watch it.
Well, mate, two blokes in the pub fighting. Perfect segue, because we've got Oscar Duarte and Angel Ferrero, which, with respect, I was being a bit of a smart ass, but this has got absolute brawl written all over it. And Oscar Duarte has had such a bad run with Richard Hitchens pulling out of that 140-pound world title opportunity for Duarte. So it's glad to see him rescheduled on a big card, but he did lose that opportunity at the world title. But in terms of a matchup, like, Angel Fierro brings it every time he gets in the ring. So I don't know if this is on BoxRec listed as the third fight. So I'm assuming there'll be 5 on the pay-per-view card, but sometimes the running order on BoxRec can be a little out of whack.
Promoters changing their minds a bit,
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if it opens the show or if it is the third fight in, whatever it is, it's going to be an absolute banger. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. And then we've got a whole lot of guys with great records that I don't know too much about, if I'm being totally honest. Have you really had a deep dive into this undercard, Mickey? Is there any guys you've seen or kept an eye on recently? Because I haven't.
No, not really. It's a pretty long card by the looks of it, So, I don't know how much of it is televised, but there aren't too many familiar names the further you go down. But like most people, I can't wait for that main. I think that's got that and the Nakatani and Inoue fight, probably the two best matchups we could have got for the year. So it's definitely Christmas coming early. Oh, we lost each other.
Well, we just dropped out again. Mickey, you got your back, mate?
Yeah, sorry. My internet's terrible.
There we go. No, we're back, mate. No, that's okay, mate. We're back, mate. All good. So, All right, mate. Well, I know we're coming up on that hour, mate. So I've just got one more to throw at you. Coming from next Wednesday, Nikita Tszyu is back in the ring in he's in Newcastle, Zoo Castle. Sorry, it is officially
Newcastle,
in
yeah.
Zoo Castle. The event name Zoo Castle. Nikita Tszyu, Oscar Diaz, a fantastic main event. I am pumped for this. Callum Peters with a massive step up against Joshon James. Yeah. Jack Bowen in a terrific fight against Tongo. Kira Rustin in a really good fight against Burke Varrell. And then there is some supporting fighters on the undercard, which are all really good, but we're running a little bit out of time. But we'll start from the top and just work our way through those four fights on the main card from the top down. Mickey, Nikita Tszyu, Oscar Diaz. I haven't been able to find any footage on Oscar Diaz at all. All I've seen is like a 30-second clip of him hitting the pads the other day at a workout. I don't know what to expect. Were you able to see any footage or any previous fights of
No,
Oscar
I've been
Diaz?
the same, yeah, because whenever there's a name I haven't heard of, I do like to kind of just look them up on YouTube and see if I can find anything. But yeah, I haven't been able to see anything either. But the good thing is that it is a world ranked opponent. It is a good stepping stone to get Nikita, closer to those big names near the top there. And and I can't wait to see it. It'll be interesting to see how Nikita, with all the turbulence around with his brother, where he can where his head's at, if he could put that aside and actually and perform. Because there's a lot of question marks there too. Having a fallout with your brother surely does weigh in on you. But the thing about Nikita is that he family and life balance is very important to him. So I think he is very mentally tough, probably even more so than his brother. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's absolutely no doubt that this should not be a pay-per-view, but I've been down that negative pay-per-view rant space too many times, so I'll save everyone from that. But the three supporting fights on this card are all absolutely fantastic. Like, for me, Callum Peters, Joshon James is an absolute banger. This is almost perfect matchmaking. Pretty aggressive matchmaking, if I'm being honest. It's probably a bigger step than most matchmakers or promoters would take with Callum at this stage of his career. But my God, man, I'm so pumped. Like, Joshon James got knocked out in 4 rounds to Lester Martinez, but he was giving him hell through the first 2 rounds. And then after that, recently on a Pro Box card, I forget the opponent's name, but he was in a double knockdown. So Joshon James has got a lot of great experience get Lester Martinez and also some pretty strange experience with a double knockdown, but he's doing it on a big show in Pro Box. And interestingly enough, Paulie Malignaggi has come out to commentate the last couple of No Limit cards, who is heavily involved in Pro Box. Joshon James is a Pro Box fighter. I'm not sure if, while Paulie was out here, he's like, yeah, I got a guy that could beat, Callum Peters. You guys want a bit of this? So who knows how that fight got made? I'm just looking from the outside in and wondering. But I love this fight, mate. Like, are you excited for this co-main? I reckon it's brilliant.
Oh, for sure. Because, we've barely seen Callum Peters get out of the second round. So this is definitely one to give him that and to be a good measuring stick for him. 6 fights in, I guess we really don't know where he's at. And this will be one of those fights that shows us. I haven't seen much besides that fight that you mentioned, but of Joshon James. But I think it would be good to see where Callum is at. Maybe he goes to a war in this fight, but comes out having been better for it without hopefully taking too much damage.
Yeah, like Joshon seems to me to be the guy that is absolutely capable of the upset. There's no doubt in my mind. Like, he's a really good fighter. Does have flaws though that can be taken advantage of. Callum Peters is an entirely stylistically different fighter than Lester Martinez. So, can Callum have success with that same sort of overhand right that Lester did from the space and the angle that Lester was able to get himself into? Maybe, probably. I'm sure they've watched it and have game planned for it, but I feel like Callum's going to go about it like he always does, and just put the foot all the way to the floor and go 100 miles an hour and see what happens. Like, if Callum Peters can do what Callum Peters has done to everyone else, to Joshon James, this would be like an epic statement. I'm expecting a distance fight. I'm expecting Joshon James to really ask question of Callum and really make Callum show a different facet or 2 or 3 than we've seen so far, which is exactly what we want to see out of our young prospects. So this is probably a little bit too much of an aggressive match for me at this point, but I still love it. I think Callum's capable of it, but I think it's going to be a very difficult fight, which as a fan is exactly what we want to see out of our young guys. So I can't wait for that fight. That's going to be brilliant. And the other two fights, mate, sorry, I am rambling because I love that fight.
No, that's all good.
Jack Bowen is in with Tongo. This just seems to be fireworks from no matter what angle you look at it. I can't wait for this fight either. What do you reckon, Micky?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, No Limit love putting on like great shows, and they do a great job. They're very their shows like internationally look like they could be anywhere in the world. And you need these sort of fan friendly fights that are gonna start the coverage on a bang. So I think we're in for like a really exciting night of fights.
Yeah, and also Kira Rustin back against Berkay Varel, who's 9-0 from Turkey. I had a little look at Varel. There isn't a ton of stuff out there. He's a pretty tidy operator. He's a little bit herky-jerky. I think he's 32. He's mature. He's tough. He's a little crude at times. I think the technique and the speed and the timing is all going to be with Kira Rustin, but I don't think Varel is the type of guy, that is going to be blasted out early. So out of all these fights, Callum Peters, Jack Bowen, Kira Rustin, three of our best prospects in the country, no doubt, all in really, really good fights that, they could potentially lose, certainly the top two. I like Kira Rustin pretty good against Berkay Varel, but it's just such a shame that this has been hidden on pay-per-view, because if you went from the Matchroom show this week, which was a fantastic entertainment-wise and that type of thing, I believe this card's going to be a higher quality from top to bottom. And if it was free on Foxtel, like 2 free shows back-to-back from different promoters on the biggest platform in Australia, and you're getting a bang for your buck in Matchroom entertainment, balls to the wall, and then you're getting potentially some of our star prospects being tested and having to learn and learning as they go and raising their level in terms of ability and development, capped off with Nikita Tszyu announcing himself on the world stage, it would have been an absolute home run out of a 7-day week, Wednesday to Wednesday. But alas, it'll be pay-per-view and about 5,000 people will watch it. But anyway, we'll stick without the negativity, but I love this show. This is a great card.
It's hard because now that Nikita's got that pay-per-view money in his last fight, it's hard to go for a fighter from a pay-per-view money to non-pay-per-view. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think in order to grow these fighters, it should be more about getting the eyes on them. And cost of living and everything, pay-per-views, it's harder for people to pull the trigger on it. I do love a trip to the pub, but even then, not a lot of pubs show boxing like they used to. So yeah, I agree. But it is what it is. But hopefully, we'll get a good show out of it and a good stepping stone for Nikita.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And just one last thing, Micky. I'm going a little bit over time, mate. I apologise. But mentioned it at the start, mate, the Boxing Boulevard YouTube channel. You were on site for the Matchroom card covering the event. You've done some great videos recently on Jai Up Attire and the edited versions and the highlight clips spliced in, like you're editing it. I can barely edit these podcasts, mate, which you could do with your eyes closed. So your video skills are certainly impressive compared to what I can do, mate, and it has my full admiration there. But Boxing Boulevard, mate, what have you got coming up for us throughout the rest of the year? And is there anything you're sort of working on behind the scenes, or like a different direction, or anywhere you want to take the channel sort of moving forward? What can we come to expect over recent times?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been a bit unorganized with it. Life kind of gets in the way. And yeah, thanks for the praise of the video quality. Look, I do video production as my full-time gig, so I'd hope that there is good production value in what I do. But I do want to move into doing a lot of like documentary stuff. So follow fighters around, do something more like that edited style, like you saw with the Jai video. I love documentary filmmaking. So yeah, if I can do like those 24/7 HBO type videos, more of like a high production value type thing. Like when I used to do Fighting Words with Fox Sports and Ben Damon. That sort of stuff I really love doing.
Yes.
Fight week, obviously, everything's got the
awesome. That was so good.
Yeah, that was so much fun to put together. And I think important in selling a fight, is telling the stories behind it. What got me into boxing as a kid was watching those videos, like those edited videos. I remember, I think when Mike Tyson made his comeback after biting Holyfield's ear, I fought Franz Botha, and they had like this preview thing. And I just remember me and my brother watching it, and that just got us so excited to see the fight. And I want to bring that to people. I want to bring that excitement to people that, you know, they'll watch something and they'll be hyped to go see the fight itself and to follow these fighters, you know.
Oh man, well, as a viewer of your channel and a lover of that type of content, oh man, that would be so awesome if you did those 24/7-esque style behind the scenes with the fighters. That'd be so great, and awesome exposure for Australian fighters too. Like, you know, no one else is doing that. You could be the perfect man for the job. That would be amazing. I'd love that. So hopefully it can happen, mate. But
yeah, cheers. No, because like, I think an important part of selling boxing isn't just like selling the technical part of it. If you want to get the masses involved, you want to get people to spend pay-per-view money, you need to tell those emotive stories. So I'm hoping to bring more and more of that in the future.
Oh, that's brilliant, mate. We'll finish it up there, Micky. Thanks so much for your time, mate. I've kept you a little bit longer than I said I would, mate. I apologise, but just had too much fun talking to you, mate, and picking your brains. So, but I really appreciate it, mate. Best of luck for the channel moving forward for the year, mate. And just stay on the line once this finishes, because it'll just take sort of a minute or two to finish uploading, mate. But thanks again, man. And if you'd be keen down the track, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a long time since I've done Hurt Business Radio, so it's good to dust off the old vocal cobwebs and get back out there. But I appreciate you having me on.
No, all good. Good on you, Micky. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
All right, guys, and there was my chat with Micky Capparelli. What a great guy. Had so much fun, as always, and a good chat with one of, as I mentioned in the intro, the original Australian boxing podcasters. So that was a ton of fun for me to get Micky on, dust off that microphone, and he was like a duck to water, mate. It didn't take him long at all, if any time at all, to just start delivering what he used to be able to deliver on a weekly basis on the Hurt Business Radio podcast. So who knows? I didn't ask Micky, actually, but maybe there's a podcast revival in the future too. So we'll keep our ears peeled. But guys, as always, all the links to follow along with Micky and his YouTube channel, Boxing Boulevard, where he's doing great work. And as just mentioned at the end of the chat there, some exciting things to come. If some of those ideas can come to fruition that Micky was letting us know about, man, how awesome will that be? I hope that stuff can happen sooner rather than later, because as a fan, I would love to consume that type of content. And Micky, the high quality operator that he is, would be the perfect man to deliver it. So follow along with Mick's channel and also his social media, all included in the description of this episode, and follow along with Mick's journey for the rest of the year. And I'm sure I'll get him back on at some stage a little later down the track too, because that was a lot of fun and I definitely want to do it again. So guys, as mentioned recently, I just wanted to jump into the Tasman Fighters card. We were pushed for time, so something sort of had to get crossed off the list. Not crossed off the list, just pushed back into the back part of the show. So, guys, I first have to start by saying on the last episode with Anthony Cox, I made a pretty significant mistake. I incorrectly assumed that this Tasman show, headlined by Jason Maloney against Andre Donovan, would be a Stan pay-per-view fight as an additional $50 pay-per-view. And I was corrected not long after the episode was released by a mate of the show too, and a guy I've met in real life, a really nice guy, a bloke who's always been incredibly generous and nice to me, Matt Clark. He actually said, mate, you've got that wrong. It is not a pay-per-view. It's a part of the Stan subscription. So I put out a little Twitter post, but not that I have a ton of followers or anything like that. So if there was anyone that missed that show because I incorrectly said it was a pay-per-view, I apologize. But that also means that because it wasn't a pay-per-view, it is on the Stan archive. So you can go back and watch it. But yeah, obviously it has already taken place. But what I will say, although it wasn't a pay-per-view, it was a part of the Stan Sports add-on. So to be able to watch it, you had to have a Stan subscription, the general one, and then you also had to have an additional $20 subscription for the Stan Sports. So for me, I didn't have a Stan Sports subscription because I believe it's like tennis and rugby's on there, which are two sports I don't watch. So effectively, it was a $20 pay-per-view. once you already have Stan. So although it wasn't a standalone pay-per-view, there was an additional paywall that it was behind, although it was for significantly less money. So yeah, it is available. It's a little convoluted, that whole thing, but when you make a mistake, you got to put your hand up, and I made a mistake, so that's all on me. I apologize if that inconvenienced anyone that just believed what I thought was to be the truth, and I was obviously incorrect. But, guys, the card itself was a bit of a banger. So, obviously, Jason Maloney in the main event was in with Andre Donovan, a guy who was much smaller in stature and really super awkward. He was ducking and diving and dodging all over the joint. He presented a really difficult target for Jason to sort of zone in on, and kind of made for a pretty messy fight. Like, I thought it was a pretty clear 7-3, 8-2 type of fight for Jason, but Andre Donovan, and to his credit, obviously coming up a weight class, it looked like, is an incredibly difficult guy to look good against. So it was always going to be really tough for Jason to get that, highlight reel knockout or highlight reel combination or something where he's going to look real slick and have something to be proud of. And he was obviously down on his performance post-fight, which just shows the professionalism and the determination that Jason and Andrew have as fighters. They always want to put their best foot forward. And that's not to say Jason didn't put his best foot forward. It's just sometimes you're in with these awkward customers that are really hard to look good against. They're career spoilers. It's really, really hard to look good against a spoiler. And a spoiler that has, sort of abnormal dimensions, who's short and stocky and dips down and is all over the joint. It's hard to land punches on guys where they don't even know where their head's going to be, let alone how are you going to predict where their head's going to be or their body. It's crazy. So yeah, Jason was down his performance. Look, I thought it was a good 10-round win. It was a good experience. In with a difficult guy to look good against, and onwards and upwards from here, especially at bantamweight for Jason. So got the job done. Guys, Connor Wallace was back in what seemed to be a bit of a run out with the 28-13-2 Walter Gabriel Sequeira. And Connor Wallace did what he did best, just got down and dirty and got in a tear up. Got the guy out of there in 6. Probably not Connor's best performance. He got cut late in the fight too, which hopefully doesn't keep him out of the ring for too long for that cut healing. But, mate, the guy just absolutely loves getting in brawls, and, he did. So good on him for that. Austin Akuzo got a really quick win over Wulamu Tulaki in the first round, and Ben Marnie and Dan Hill had a pretty close 10-rounder. I have to admit, that one I didn't have too much attention on. I had some things going on at the time. I know a lot of people said Dan Hill was robbed. I didn't pay enough attention to the fight, I have to admit, to have an opinion either way. But one fight I did have a lot of attention on, and for me, the most intriguing of the entire card, and shout out to, as I mentioned before, mate of the show, Matt Clark, who made this fight, was the matchmaker for this card. This was such a brilliant match on paper, and it lived up to it, and we got everything out of it that we wanted to once the first bell rang. Max McIntyre with the 8th round TKO stoppage over Tej Singh, whose corner threw in the towel. Still Tej, upper weight class. He's not a natural super middleweight. Small for the weight, but still never knocked down, never stopped. The guy is unbelievably otherworldly tough. But this is what we wanted to see from Max. We needed someone in the ring, and Max needs someone in the ring with him that isn't going to lie down, that isn't going to take no for an answer, that is going to keep pushing forward, that is going to make Max go rounds, that is going to ask questions of Max, that Max has to answer under the lights in real time. And that's exactly what we got. I thought it was 2-2 after 4 rounds. I thought it was even after 4. I thought Tej won the 2nd and the 4th. It was kind of a really awkward start. Tej did what Tej always does, and that's move forward and throw punches, and we know that's what he's going to do. But Tej doesn't get the credit for how technical he actually is. He does have a little bit of an awkward style for sure, but he's a pressure fighter that moves forward. He has pretty good fundamentals. He has pretty good defensive hand positioning. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that's going to stand back and slip 3 jabs and pop you with his own, but he's a guy that knows where to put his head. He's a guy who knows where to put his right foot and get on the outside, and he's a guy who knows how to get inside and throw shots and keep himself safe. And he was doing that. Max took a little bit of time to adjust. Also, Tej Singh took a little bit of time to adjust. What was real, I forget what round it was. This was a week ago, guys, but I believe it was like in the second or third, or maybe the third and the fourth, where Tej sort of made the adjustment. Instead of rushing and getting close enough and getting to the mid-range where he could punch with Max McIntyre, he started punching his way in as he was breaking the distance, as he was closing that gap. He was starting to throw punches, and he was catching Max. He was hitting Max with right hooks. He was hitting Max on the chin with left hands. You know, Tej isn't a big puncher, but he was landing. It was a great adjustment. Max then had to adjust to that adjustment, and I thought he did that great by taking that half step back and trying to maintain that gap. He was throwing the uppercut, he was throwing the left hooks. He was, you know, it's Money Max, mate. He throws all the punches. He's got them all in his toolbox, and he was throwing them all out there. But it was just fantastic to have to see Max have questions asked of him, and credit to Tej for asking those questions, and he had the answers for them. It was brilliant. We got to see a lot more about Max's conditioning, which was pretty solid. I thought it was even after 4 rounds, and then I thought Max took over from there and really started to be more dominant than he was in the 4th round, in the 5th, more dominant in the 6th round than he was in the 5th, more dominant in the 7th round than he was in the 6th, and so on. The pattern had been put into... What am I saying? The pattern had been put into what? I don't know. The fight was playing out, and it was heading all in one direction, and that was Max McIntyre's direction. So the corner ended up throwing in the towel with about a minute and a half or 2 minutes to go in the last round on Tej, who was stopped, still standing, but had taken a ton of shots. I'm pretty sure his nose was broken from a wicked uppercut earlier in the fight. There was blood everywhere. But also Max was a little marked up too. It was a brilliant match. It's exactly what we want to see out of our young fighters. And it's guys like Tej who don't get the credit they deserve, because these veterans that, look past their prime and never got to the top where I'm sure they hoped they would get to, but they hang around and they're so valuable for the next generation of fighters. This was a great match. Max passed with flying colours, but also shout out to Tej for the one that got in there, risked it all, and asked that young man questions and helped him in his development. Tej and guys like him are such a valuable part of the Australian boxing ecosystem, and they don't get the credit they deserve. So I would like to give Tej the credit he deserves. But yeah, brilliant show from Tasman, guys. It was an absolute ton of fun. So can't wait to see what happens moving forward with all the winners and some of the losers on that card too. So, all right, guys, have I rambled enough about that? Yeah, I think I have. We're done. So, guys, the next episode, I was teeing something up for early next week, which would be just after the Inoue Nakatani and Zurdo Ramirez, David Benevidez doubleheader. At least I'm going to call it a doubleheader because they're in the 24-hour period. That's going to be pushed back until after the following weekend now, which will be the Wardley Dubois weekend. So next week, I haven't reached out to anyone as in getting a guest on. I might, but if I don't, I'll have to do a solo. I'll come on for a solo. I won't break down everything like fully in depth because I still want to save it for the guest the week after. But we'll do a hit out. But I know I always say I'll try and keep them 10 or 15 minutes, and I go for 35 or 40. But if I do come on next week, it'll either be with a guest, proper breakdown. If it's a solo hit out, I'll try to keep it to 10 or 15 just to save some points for the following week so that we can get into it with the guest. Because that's just more fun. I like talking to people about fights. I just don't want to talk to a camera, you know what I mean? But so that will be the schedule for the next week or so, guys. So if you want to get in contact with me, guys, you can throw a tweet at me at delivery_man2. You can email the pod at TUSCPod@gmail.com. That's TUSCPod@gmail.com. Got the Insta page out there, guys. You can follow that. We're also got the YouTube channel. You can jump on there. And yeah, guys, we've got one hell of a weekend coming up. I am so excited. I can't even talk properly. It's Friday afternoon at time of recording. So we're 24 hours away from the first fight starting. And oh man, what a stretch it's going to be. I'm so excited. So guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. The support is always appreciated, and enjoy the fights. I'll chat to you later.
Road less travel may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. Going all out. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. car, laughing through the window frame.